Yo, this is a motherfucker who needs no introduction. You are watching Breaking Records Radio.
Alright, so you are now tuned in to Breaking Records Radio. My name is Alex Kuchma, and today's guest is one of the dopest up-and-coming MCs, period. From being featured on Conway the Machine's latest From a King to a God, to being signed to Drumwork Music Group, Conway's label. I'm now talking, of course, about JAE SKEESE. The artist out of Buffalo, New York, recently dropped his album, Ashfall Calligraphy, in September of 2020. It's absolutely excellent. You can find it now on Bandcamp as well as on streaming services. That being said, what's good, my man?
What's going on with you, man? I'm feeling good. I'm blessed, man. How you feeling?
That's fantastic. I'm doing good on my end as well. I can't thank you enough for taking the time out to speak to me here today, and for having this conversation. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely, man. Me too, man. I definitely, you know what I'm saying, it's been a busy day, you know what I mean? But I've definitely been looking forward to it all day, man. You know what I'm saying? So I'm ready to chop it up.
100%. So I want to talk about your kind of current career and what's going on and what you have coming up next as well, but I wanted to kind of situate the audience with a little bit of history and kind of figure out exactly who you are. So just kind of starting from the beginning, I know you represent Buffalo, but did you grow up in Buffalo?
Yeah, I grew up on the east side of Buffalo. I'm born and raised here in Buffalo, but, you know, from the time I was about 9 years old, I grew up on the east side of Buffalo.
Gotcha. And at what point did you start getting introduced to, I guess, hip-hop culture? Not even necessarily injecting yourself into it as an MC or as a producer, but just from a fan's perspective, when did you kind of familiarize yourself with the culture?
I mean, I got to say it was probably around that same time, especially like where I grew up at. I mean, obviously I was on the east side, so, you know, you hear the music, you know what I'm saying, playing for different cars. And, you know, there was actually a music store that was actually right around the corner from me that I used to go and shop at frequently. And really what introduced me to hip hop was just listening to the radio. We got a local radio station that, you know, kind of focuses on urban music, 93.7. And I used to be on there, man, like every day listening to the different hip hop shows and just, you know, dubbing different songs on cassettes and different things like that. So that's kind of how I got, you know, really introduced to it.
Gotcha. Based off the fact that you mentioned cassettes, I imagine you're talking about kind of like mid to late 90s, maybe early 2000s?
Yeah, for sure. Like, you know, around 99, maybe 2000, 2001, like right around that time.
Gotcha. So when did things, I guess, start taking a little bit seriously and you start writing or recording anything? I know some of your earliest projects, at least from what I can see, came out around the turn of the last decade, I guess, 2010, 2011 or so. But when did you start, I guess, trying to take it a little bit more seriously and know that this is something you wanted to do?
And I think what really kind of turned that corner for me was when I dropped it was my first solo mixtape. It was called Whack. It was called Women, Alcohol, Cash, and Kicks. When that came out, that was 2010. It was September 15th, actually, 2010. And when that dropped, you know, the response that I got from it and, you know, just the overall, just the way it was received from, you know, some people locally and, you know, going out of town and doing shows and, you know, people, you know, getting hip to the project, that was like really what really showed me like, okay, this is something that I can maybe take serious and maybe have a career in. But I started really like, you know, I learned how to pen my bars and, you know, how to come up with content. I was probably 12 years old around that time. And I had a best friend who lived right across the street from me. Him and his cousin, they had some uncles who were actually MCs and they had a group, and his one uncle had a studio. And they always aspired to go to that studio and go record and become a group themselves. And so being around them pretty much every day, that inspired me to go ahead and, you know, figure out how to write my bars and, you know, how to MC myself.
So did you have access to that studio when you were growing up?
I did. And that came after, you know, practicing and just writing bars and just, you know, again, just honing my craft and sharpening my blade and, you know, actually meeting his uncle and, you know, kind of performing for them and letting them know that we were serious. But we got access to the studio after a while, but it took, you know, a little bit of time for them to know that we were actually serious about our craft.
Yeah, it's really interesting kind of hearing these stories and kind of figuring out more history regarding the kind of upstate New York scene. But really, you say the first kind of mixtape project comes out in 2010. That's kind of the start of what I would say is kind of this underground movement getting pushed from upstate New York. I know you had cats that were representing the area before that, but really, since yeah, kind of over the last decade, maybe even half a decade, 5-6 years or so, you really start to see this really heavy push between artists from Rochester and Buffalo, people like 38 Spesh, all the Griselda cats, of course, and even people a little bit north of the border in Toronto or Windsor, and kind of, I guess, contributing to that same scene, though, right? So people like Danielson, for example. I find this whole kind of movement fascinating. When you were coming up originally, say 2009, 2010, 2011, were these the cats that you were in contact with at that period of time as well, or did you get introduced to them later?
Around that time, I wasn't really in contact with anybody that, that's real prominent on the scene. I still haven't really met Danielson, like, formally. But the first time I was actually around him, he did a show here in Buffalo. That wasn't actually until 2018, I believe. And then we went up to Toronto, and I saw him again in 2019 for a show that was, it was up in Toronto. But, all these different cats that you mentioned, Griselda, 38 Spesh, those guys, I knew who they were. But again, like, in terms of us having contact and, working together and things like that, because I still haven't really formally met 38 Spesh. I had never really even met any of these guys. I just knew who they were because they were a little older than me, and, they were doing their thing. Like, the only person I could say is, like, Benny. And I had known of Benny since I was about 14, because he has always been just like a superstar, you know what I mean? But, like, Westside Gun, I didn't know who Westside was until 2012, you know what I mean? And that was just off of hearing the music and being a fan, really. It wasn't even like, we were formally introduced. And then same thing with Conway. I didn't really know who Conway was until about 2014, 2015. So, and again, it wasn't even like a formal thing where we met and, hey, like, I'm a fan, whatever. Nah, like, I just knew them just based off of the music.
Man, it's amazing because the sound is so similar. There's a vibe. There's kind of a sonic palette that is being introduced. I think to the underground hip hop community as a whole, but it's originating from this area, and it's fascinating that people like yourself, you don't really come up with these people yet. Sonically, you kind of follow the same sort of wave, and I don't mean that as a bad thing at all. I love this sound that's coming out of the area, but it's interesting. There must be something about Buffalo or Rochester, upstate New York in general, that curates this really kind of gritty and raw sound, just sonically. Like, your shit works with Griselda, and I know you guys are affiliated at this point, but even people like that we didn't mention, people like Dante or Falcon Crest or all these people that inhabit the same sort of zone geographically, they're producing this same sort of sound sonically, and it's fucking dope. It's super dope.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's, like, just a testament, like you said, like, just to the area. Like, you look outside right now. I just actually came from outside, and it's 12 degrees outside right now. We in the middle of February, you know what I'm saying? So around this time, especially, it's very, like, it's just vindictive. I don't want to say vindictive, but it's like, the sound is just, like, it's gritty. It's real, just, I don't know. It's just real street, and, like, it kind of just attaches to, like, the actual climate of the area. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially being from Buffalo, like, this is like a working man's town. You know what I'm saying? And, you got to put in that grind just to even be accepted in Buffalo is just, man, it's tough. It's extremely tough. And so, again, that just kind of goes back to the sound, like the actual sound of the music. And, like, my sound, because I'm just coming out. I'm just being introduced to the world. So, I'm featured on a couple Conway tracks, and, we're going to come out with some stuff soon as well. But, like, once you kind of get introduced to my sound, it's a little different from, like, that Griselda, that real hip hop, that sound that they've created, but it's definitely still along the same lines. You know what I mean? So you'll get a nice feel of how I really sound, like, once my projects and things like that start coming out.
Man, I'm excited. Based off of your sound, or I guess speaking of your sound, going through your own catalog, there's a lot of regular names that end up getting brought up, and I wanted to ask about a couple of them because a couple of them kind of stand out. The first is producer Mitch Arizona. Now, he's been heavily involved in your career by the looks of it right from the very beginning, but who is this dude, and how did you two end up connecting? I know he did some a lot of beats in your previous projects, and I'm not sure about the entirety of the new album, Asphalt Calligraphy, but I definitely know a couple songs off there as well. But who's Mitch?
So Mitch, he's one of my best friends, man. We met back in 2009. We actually met through Billy Esco, who's another one of my best friends. We came up making music together from about the age of 15 or 16. And that's actually Camouflage Monk's cousin, who again is like another really, really good friend. So we all came up on the scene together. You know what I mean? We're all part of a collective called First Class. So Mitch Arizona, like I said, he's like a great friend. I trust him. I trust his vision, and you know, he's always been good for my sound. You know what I mean? He's a great producer. He's probably the best producer that I know, aside from a few other ones. But yeah, that's my guy, man. And you know, we work really closely together. And I've always told him from the beginning, you know, no matter what, you know, he's always gonna, like, it's gonna be us, you know what I'm saying, as we progress. It's not gonna be me progressing, you know, whether it's you that, you know, makes a leap, or if it's me that makes a leap, it's always gonna be we. So, you know, starting from Women, Alcohol, Cash, and Kicks, that first mixtape that I was telling you about, I've always made sure that he's always had, you know, a few tracks on there, you know, whether he produced it or whether he's actually on the song rapping, or both. He used to go by Kenny B. So if you go back to some of those early mixtapes, you'll actually see either Kenny B or Mitch Arizona. He's always been involved, you know what I'm saying, since about 2010, you know what I'm saying, 2009.
Right now she on an elevator. I'm not trying to waste your time or give you all of mine. I just wanna vibe with your vibes. I don't wanna keep your heart, but I can tell you where to start. I just wanna vibe with your vibe, with your vibe. I don't need to know your name or the places that you've been. I just wanna vibe with your vibe, with your vibe. I don't need to hear about your mistakes or the times you ended at his place. Just wanna vibe with your vibe. Just vibe with your vibe with your vibe. Just vibe with your vibe with your vibe. Just vibe with your vibe with your vibe with your. I got some things in my past that I wouldn't care to reenact. Broke some hearts that I can't take back.
I wasn't able to find production credits for the newest release here, but I know that he was shouted out on a couple songs, being the producer for The Joints. But did he produce the entirety of the new album, Asphalt Calligraphy?
He didn't do everything. If I'm looking at the track list, I think he did. I want to say, hold on one second. Looking at the track list here, he did. I want to say probably 7 or 8 out of the 11 tracks on there. So he's all over it. He's definitely all over it.
Yeah, really heavily involved. The next, I guess, person that I would like to, I guess, some light shed on, perhaps my favorite guest verse on Asphalt Calligraphy, the album, and that's Lord Vaughn on Well For Your Mind. Can you shed some light on Lord Vaughn?
So Lord Vaughn is actually, he's an artist, again, from Buffalo, that I didn't even really know who he was. He was somebody that I ran into like on Instagram, and we had connected through Instagram, and I think I heard it was like a couple freestyles that he did. He had some freestyle videos on there. And then when I saw that he was actually from the town, I was like, oh, nah, bro. Like, I sent him a DM. I followed him. I said, yo, like, you can really spit. You know what I mean? And I try to do that. Like, you know, here in the town, people know who I am. I'm not saying that I'm the biggest artist here or anything like that, but, you know, people are familiar with my music. So, you know, when I recognize talent and I see talent and, you know, I see something that's dope, you know, I want to be a part of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, whether we collab on something or, yo, I want to jump on your track, or, you know, I just want to highlight you just because there's so much talent here. And a lot of people, they don't even want to give it the time of the day. You know what I mean? But, you know, as I continue to grow, you know, again, I just want to shed the light on others as well. You know what I mean? Because, again, I know what it feels like to be that artist that's trying to do something, that's, you know, trying to break through and trying to get ears, you know what I mean? And you can't even get heard by anyone. So, you know, I want to use my platform, whether it's big, whether it's small, whatever, just to be, you know, that light for other artists to get heard.
Yeah, 100%. I guess a good segue there, but to talk about Drumwork Music Group. For those listening at home, what exactly is Drumwork, and how did the project come together?
Word. So Drumwork is actually a label that was put together by Conway the Machine. That's my guy, good dude, you know what I'm saying, one of the realest people I know. It was actually his vision, to start it last year after me and Love the Genius and I should say, we had all connected on a trip to New York. So he had actually reached out to me in the beginning of the summer last year. And, he said that he had this vision to, start up this label, and he wanted to push me and a few other artists. And, I told him I was all with it. I was all for it. I'm a huge Conway the Machine fan. And we didn't really connect until the fall. And he had, me and Love the Genius come out to New York City, and we had recorded some music while we were there. We met a few different people, and, man, it was just a great experience. And from that, because he kind of saw how hungry we were and, just the way that, we carried ourselves as artists and the way that we created, it kind of pushed him to say, okay, you know what, I had the idea for this Drumwork music thing. It was already in motion, but now we kind of have to really put the pedal to the metal and get this thing going.
I'm not sure what's kind of publicly put out there as of yet, but who's all involved in the label as of now? Obviously, Conway would end up being affiliated with the label or on the label. Yourself, of course. Who else is on that roster?
Oh, so as of right now, I mean, his brothers, Rosie and Shots, they're obviously affiliated just, through the family aspect of everything. And then Love the Genius is affiliated. She's not, I don't believe, at this day and time officially signed to the label, to the roster. But, that's something that they're working on, and hopefully they'll make it official real soon. But as of right now, I'm the first and only artist that's officially signed to Drumwork.
That's super dope. The artist that you mentioned, I thought her name was like Seven the Genius. I could be wrong there though. She was on the track that you ended up doing on Conway's recent album as well, right? The From King to a God. I don't know exactly the name of the song that it was, but you're talking about the same person, right?
Right, yeah. So the way you say her name is Love the Genius. So the 7 is kind of flipped into an L, and then the X stands as an O, and then it's, Love the Genius. So that's kind of how you say it. But yeah, we were both featured on that Crackin' 90s record that's produced by Rock Marciano.
Her verse was excellent. She came in at the end there and she just fucking murdered it. I loved it. That whole album was fantastic. I wanted to talk about that as well, but and I guess now's a good time to do so. But how did you end up getting involved in that project? Obviously, Conway. Obviously, the album came out in 2020. Did he know that the Drumwork music group was going to be a thing, and he was using it to kind of promote that label, or how did those two spots come to be? And did you know that you were going to be on the record on two different features? Because it's a great look.
Yeah, no, definitely. Love absolutely killed that record. I think we all floated. You know what I'm saying? It was great to be featured on there. What kind of happened was we recorded that record after the New York trip. And we had went to Miami, and we did the Drink Champs thing. Conway brought us along for that. And so we knew, Drumwork obviously was a thing. We already had music that was recorded, and we just had plans on getting things officiated. You know what I'm saying? After whenever they were going to make the decision to do it. And so it kind of just made sense to throw us on the Deluxe, I guess, in a sense. And so that was how that kind of came about. I got the beat from his assistant. He was like, write something to this. We're going to record it on this day. And that was how Crackin' the 90s was kind of born. And then the other record that I'm featured on the Deluxe is called Stephon Diggs. That came together when we were in Atlanta for the title show, for the Griselda Untitled show. And, he was trying to get tracks together for the Deluxe, and I think it was the Deluxe was coming out on Friday, and it was on Tuesday. That was when we had wrote Stephon Diggs, and he was in the living room, we was in the Airbnb, and he's in the living room just coming up with some bars for the joint. And as he's doing that, I'm sitting there and I'm listening to the beat. It was a Dangerous beat, and I'm like, yo, this joint, this is crazy. You know what I mean? I'm just nodding to it, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just take it upon myself and we'll write a little hook. And then, hopefully if he rocks with it, then, I can lay it down. And so, I wrote some bars and, pulled him to the side, like, yo, I got a hook for it. Whenever you're done, I just want you to listen to it. And so he's sitting there. And so he's like, yo, spit your hook. And so I spit it for him. He was like, yo, once I'm done, throw it on there. And then, he got done recording this joint. I threw my bars on there. And man, it sounded beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Like, it sounded great altogether. So, that was how I got the second feature on there.
Yeah, that was the first kind of introduction on my end of yourself, and just kind of learning about you as an MC. Did you notice a kind of a large increase in your own fan base since the Conway project dropped?
Oh, for sure. Like, especially on Twitter, on Instagram, the presence is definitely felt of those people, from his fan base, kind of tuning in and seeing who I am.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like, I come from, I guess, the liner note era, right? And whenever I'd get home a record, I'd look through the liner notes. I'd write down all the names that I saw on the thank yous or production credits, and go to the thrift store or the record store and try to find as many names as I could possibly find that were on my list. Take it home and kind of do rinse and repeat, right? Try to expand my horizons as much as possible. But yeah, an artist that's consistent like Conway, whenever you hear like just standout guest verses, which I think you would kind of be within that category anyhow, you definitely take notice.
Word, thank you. I appreciate that, man, for real.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's definitely a testament to, Love the Genius and myself, because, Conway, he comes with a certain pedigree and, just prestige, man, when it comes to the bars, when it comes to the music. So, you don't hear everybody rapping with Conway. And I think what you said is like, it's kind of similar to that. You don't hear everybody on tracks with Conway. So, if you hear somebody on there, whether it's a verse or a hook, whatever, they got to be coming with something.
Yeah, 100%. I don't want to spend the whole interview talking about Conway. I do want to focus on yourself as well. But the last question here on Conway, I was kind of surprised, at least considering the most recent signing, not to see Conway on the new album. Again, for those listening at home, that's Asphalt Calligraphy. It came out September of 2020. It's on Bandcamp. But he's not on the record. Neither is Love the Genius. I assume that was probably a deliberate choice, and I assume the opportunity was there for you in order to get him. Why that choice?
So him not being on Asphalt Calligraphy, the same thing with Love the Genius. They weren't on there because we hadn't really came together yet, to be honest with you. He had reached out to me again. It was in the summer of 2020. And then we kind of all came together in the fall. It was, mid-October. So, at the time, I didn't really feel like, not to say that I didn't feel comfortable, but I just didn't feel like I was at a point where I could go to Conway and, ask for a verse, or, me and Love had collaborated in the past, but we just weren't kind of in the same space where we could, just go and add, like, let me get a verse on this, or, and then there was some songs on there where I couldn't really see anyone else, being on, this song, or having a verse here, or, doing this and that. So it all it flowed the way that I needed it to flow. And then we just weren't all working together. Like, this is all a brand new thing. You know what I mean? Like, literally since mid-October.
Gotcha. The last track off the record is called Canadian Ships, and considering kind of this show, Breaking Records Radio, coming out of Canada, I wanted to pause and talk about this a little bit. This track, it feels like you're just kind of talking to us, really poetic, and though there's a beat, it feels very personal and almost a cappella or spoken word-esque, produced of course by Mitch Arizona. I think the track's fantastic, and it's a really nice kind of closing track to the album. What's the meaning of this song? And considering the term Canadian Ships isn't exactly mentioned, except for kind of a namesake near the end, why the title?
All right, so that joint, we actually recorded that up in Toronto. Or not recorded it, but we came up with the beat and with a lot of the words to the song up in Toronto. Mitch Arizona and Billy Esco, we just took a trip. It was like a weekend trip, and we booked an Airbnb. Toronto is 2 hours away from Buffalo, so we slid up there real quick and just said, we're just gonna take this weekend and just create and just get away from Buffalo for a minute. And that was like one of the first records that we kind of came together and like formed. And the name of the joint, I think Mitch actually named the beat when he was done producing it. He named it Canadian Ships. And sometimes with some of the tracks that I make, he'll send me the instrumental or whatever he produces, and I'll just take whatever name that he has there. He might name it, I don't know, he might name it whatever he comes up with, and I'll just keep that same name, and I'll just let the lyrics speak for itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough. Have you done many shows up in Toronto?
I've done, I think, 2 shows up in Toronto. There was one that I did, I think it was 2012, and there was another one that I was actually scheduled to do, and this was 2019, I believe. It was me, Mitch Arizona, Camouflage Monk. We came up for that, but that ended up ending early. I forget what street it was on, but someone ended up, trying to come in and let off a shot. After they got in, it was like a little tussle, and somebody let off a shot, so the show ended up ending early.
Was that at the Opera House by any chance in Toronto?
I can't remember. I'm not sure exactly what the name of the venue was, but there was some prominent like acts there though. The one guy from Falcon Crest, I forget what the homie's name is, with the dreads. I forget what his name is, but he was there, and that was when the shot was let off. So.
Fair enough. I'm curious to see what the reception's like going forward over the next couple of years of your own career. Of course, the signing with Conway and the appearance on the Conway record, as well as just putting out consistent material over time. I see a lot of the merchandise on the Bandcamp at the very least is selling out, which is a great sign. It means people are actually tuning in, which is great. What's kind of next in your kind of periphery in terms of your career? What do you plan on doing at least for 2021?
So this year I'm definitely focused on just putting out the best music that I can put out. Period. I know right now we're kind of working on some things pertaining to like Drumwork as a label. You know what I mean? Putting out like a group project. I have another solo project that I'm working on. Again, it's going to be my Drumwork debut. I also have a wearable art brand. It's called Brown Not Black Live Your Creed. The acronym is BNBLYC. You can actually check it out. The Instagram is at BNBLYC. So I'm definitely focused on that as well. So I create one-of-one hand-painted denim jackets and hoodies, and then I have some different T-shirts and hats and things like that. So I'm definitely focused on that. And then aside from that, I'm also an artist. Like I create different paintings on canvases. I also draw. So like those are some of the things that I'm just trying to stay connected to as I grow as an artist, in terms of music. But, I always want to make sure that I incorporate those different things, that I do as well, so that, people can understand like the full spectrum of everything that I do.
Album artwork. Are you designing the album artwork then for a lot of your releases?
I'm actually not. So normally there's just certain things I look for every project, and some things, I want to bring to life, but I just may not have the exact, I'm not going to say the skill set, but I can see it, but I just can't bring it to life maybe digitally. So, and some things I just want to look a certain way. So I have done a few different things in the past, but, I always like to collaborate with other artists, for those different things.
Yeah, fair enough. Like I said, I'm super excited to see what you come up with over the next few years. I'm definitely a fan as of now, and I'm going to be tuning in. Again, for those listening at home, Asphalt Calligraphy, it's on Bandcamp, it's on streaming services. Definitely go check it out. There's still a couple physical copies, I believe. I think the CD is as of now sold out, but there are physicals available on Bandcamp, so definitely go and check out the project. It's super, super dope. And again, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out to speak to me here today and for coming on the show.
For sure, man. It was great to be on here, man. I'm glad you hit me up.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely stay in touch. Whenever you end up having new projects coming out, I would love to be able to give them a listen and give any sort of publicity that I possibly can. Currently, right now, I'm working with Breaking Records Radio, but I work for a couple other publications as well. And I'd love to be able to help you out in any kind of way. Like I said, I'm a fan as of now, and this is the type of music, this is the type of shit that I really fuck with. So I know a lot of times you kind of get dumped in an interview that you're kind of hit or miss about the actual material that's being promoted, but in this case, this is the type of shit that I listen to, from Flea Lord to Falcon Crest, all the names that you ended up mentioning, Camouflage Monk. These are the people that I fuck with, so I'm 100% a fan. I'd love to kind of be a part of this.
Got you, bro. I appreciate that, man.
Sounds good. And in terms of art as well, if I don't know if you have a website or anything set up for some of the prints or even like original art, I'd love to be able to get a link or some place in order to buy buy something anyway. I collect a lot of art myself, and I've kind of made it a point to buy more hip hop kind of themed art, even if it's not like hip hop themed art, but just art from different hip hop artists. Over the last few years, that's kind of been my trajectory. So I'd love to be able to support in that way as well.
Word, I got you. I got your phone number, so I'll text you over something.